There's a verse that says, then I go inside and quiet my mind. And can you imagine doing that in Las Vegas, where I've just, the Spiritual Living Convention was in Las Vegas. And even the patterns on the carpet, you know, they want to send you by all the flashing lights and all the noisy things. And sometimes my mind is like that, the flashing lights and all the noisy things and distractions. And I listened to some extraordinary people, and it took a little bit to navigate to get to where we were on the mezzanine level, and then also to navigate back out almost a half hour sometimes to get to the fresh air. Whew, to come up for air. And so we can turn within at any time and go inside and quiet our mind and get beyond some of those distractions and to see through that to navigate wherever we're going. And I listened to some extraordinary people at the conference, and it was a lot about our educational programs, a lot about our strategic plan, where we're going as far as awakening hearts and minds in our magnificence and having a world that works for everyone. And so it was a beautiful thing to share resources and to just be love and be loved. And I also learned that people have wants. A lot of my colleagues want to be the same weight that they are on their driver's license. At the Centers for Spiritual Living in Edmonton, Canada, they have $1 million lottery every year. And in fact, one guy had won it 3 years in a row. And what they do is they draw a winner every year for $1 million. And what they do is they pay out $1 each year for 1,000,000 years. And it keeps people coming back. It keeps people living longer in great anticipation of longevity and quality of life. And coming back into spiritual practice in community together. And part of our vision, too, is about love and abundance and acceptance. And so as we all embody that and accept that even more, much like I had to have breadcrumbs to get out of the casino, sometimes we do that. We lessen whatever is distracting in our way. We can eliminate and dissolve whatever's in the way of that love coming forward as we turn within and quietly listen to that. And we eliminate those distractions. And our topic today is the lodestone of life. Anyone know what a lodestone is? It's a magnet. One person, two people. Good, my intellectual friends, I love this. The magnet, it's something, it's like a natural magnet. It's a natural thing that just is already charged up with that energy. And oftentimes it's that magnetite. And what it does, what the people would do back in China, and even before that in Olmec, the Olmec civilization would use it to charge up a piece of iron so that it could give them a compass. And that it could help them navigate, that they found the natural properties were already there that could help them use it as a tool to navigate. So it was not just a piece of metal, but they had that natural property that put all those pieces together or sent them in the right direction. So that lode, L-O-D-E, became a way to navigate. It also means a journey or a way. So that lodestone, or much like a touchstone or a cornerstone, it would provide that navigation, much like getting out of the casino into the fresh air. So the Olmec in Central America would use that, and they would use that to navigate. So all the mariners, and much like Ava, I guess, had a science project around magnets, and I'm sure, be sure, no more magnets, okay. So be sure and ask Ava in the social hall about her science project. And sometimes our life is an experiment, or we explore something new. And if we choose to navigate a different direction, we get to maybe do whatever that course correction is. So our book of the month is A New Design for Living, and it's by Dr. Ernest Holmes, who's the founder of The Science of Mind, which is a guide for spiritual living. And in chapter 15, he talks about, on page 146, and doesn't this look like Vegas? It's not the new and improved one. It's been well loved and dog-eared, and I love books in addition to the Kindle because they just have a certain feel, and just so getting beyond what's on the cover here and to the inside as we turn within, and talk about the lodestone of life. So on page 146, it talks about that it would be unwise to ignore or in any way seek to avoid the greatest of all truths. Love is the lodestone of life and is a feeling that must permeate everything we do and are. It must flow out from us to everyone we contact. And if we are to accept, acceptance being one of the words in our vision statement, and if we are to accept in any degree the evidence of modern investigation, we may definitely state that without love, there is no living worthwhile. And that even a much younger percentage of our physical troubles that we may yet realize is based on the lack of happiness, appreciation, and joy. So today we get to turn up the volume on happiness and appreciation and joy by listening to that navigation, to that inner lodestone that we have, the lodestone of love that's here. And it's sometimes like when I've been shopping at Marshall's, you know how you pick something out, they usually have like a $3 limit. Unlike Vegas, someone in the community gave me a $5 bill and it doubled by itself. I found the noisiest and most colorful thing, and it was a spiritual practice to put it in that one particular thing that called to me, and it was a spiritual practice and pretty amazing. When I go shopping at, say, like Marshall's, there's those inventory tags, and like at this conference, we're all in this building, and we're all jazzed up about the possibility, about the goodness, and about the love that's in our life. And to be aware that as we take it out in the world, that if we're afraid, like that inventory tag or whatever that perceived threat might be in the world, that it might stay inside the building unless we take it outside, unless we find our way to the fresh air. Through and navigate through the casino of our mind, navigate through the casino of our experience. Because if we're afraid that there's an alarm that's going to go off, if there's some alarm or some perceived threat that's outside of us that may go off, that's a perspective. And so to just realize that that's a perspective in whatever that casino experience is, that there may be something that might go off. And at the same time, I know that I can turn within to that own internal navigation system, that lodestone of love, and rely upon that and let that be my navigation. And it could be like if I'm in a disagreement, or if I have a disappointment, or if I have some sense of unhappiness, or if a flight is delayed, or if I've lost some money in an investment, or if I got a diagnosis from a doctor. And then I can see what I really believe. I can look within and turn within to that quiet place, that lodestone of love that's there, the lodestone of love and abundance and acceptance, and draw upon that. And that lodestone, what I notice is I know people who have that lodestone of love, and many of those people are in this room. Many of those people are in our community. Many of those people are in our greater community. Many of those people are making their way here right now. And moving in that world, there's a noticeable difference about people who have that lodestone of life, that lodestone of love. There's a noticeable difference. There's a cheerfulness that's within the heart. There's an inspiration that's there. And it's a noticeable absence of victim mentality, that something or someone is doing something to us, or to me, or to them, or whatever. And dramas become less interesting. They're just less interesting than they used to be. Or they also become much briefer. They may arise in our experience, much like taking that tag out of the security at Marshall's, but we take it out in the world and we know that drama just becomes less interesting or so much briefer. And that then we're not just talking about it. We're not just espousing whatever, but we're practicing. We're in that spiritual practice of being the lodestone of love. We're in that practice of being the highest vibration that's possible and making our very best choices. And so we choose. We choose to look for the good. We choose what we believe. We choose to take positive action. Instead of condemning, I could have condemned the casino for being so bright and noisy and not being able to find my way and spent my time just condemning or judging, whatever that was. But no, I chose to love. I chose to love my passion and navigate toward and have fun along the way as I was navigating toward that fresh air and to sit in that cafe outside. And so instead of withholding, whatever that experience, withholding or withdrawing, we choose to give in our life, whatever area that is. Or instead of hating, we choose to love. And I know people here who are lodestones. There are so many in this room, and they are devoted to their own spiritual practice, whatever it may look like. We started off about a year ago with meditation, affirmations, affirmative prayer, journaling, being in selfless service to one another. All kinds of being in spiritual practice, and to look for the good, and to look at what we believe, and to look at what positive action that we can take. And we've all been with folks who've faced death. We've all been with folks who have a diagnosis like Oliver Sacks got this week, as far as whatever that diagnosis is. We've all lost a loved one. We've all known someone who's had a bankruptcy or foreclosure, or maybe I just recently switched banks because they had increased fees, and then this other bank decided to do their fees, and after I'd switched everything over, who knew? But I should be grateful for the years since the 90s where it was like a fee-free. Fee-free! We can be free. And no, I chose to view it differently. I had a different perspective about that. That I was grateful that I had other options, and that I had that long run of good. And sure, yeah, there's other options that I can still look into. We've all known people who put themselves into a rehab. And that's when we're faced with, will I really apply what I believe? Will I really be good to people? Will I be good about my own spiritual practice? And it's much like warm cookies and cold milk. That's a spiritual practice too. There's a principle in there somewhere. Falling up, drawing upon that comfort and knowing that we have that flourishing and that resilience, much like the warm cookies and milk, that we have that experience. That's a spiritual practice. Here in this community, we have a vision. So we have a vision to create a world of love and abundance and acceptance for one and all. And I love especially to hear Luce and Mallory read that. And there's just a resonance. There's just such a resonance in that. And we can draw upon that, much like having a dialogue with ourselves, with that lodestone, with whatever that guiding inspiration is for us. And much like a holy dialogue that happened with the Dalai Lama, there was the Association for Global New Thought. A whole bunch of people had delivered themselves to India to have an audience with the Dalai Lama, and they asked him a handful of questions, which they thought was important. So it was a group of leaders, and what they considered these questions were is to make a difference in humankind. And it's much like the Centers for Spiritual Living. Our community is making a difference as far as awakening humanity to its own magnificence in a world that works for everyone. So these important questions to be considered were, how do we address the widening gap between rich and poor? Well, abundance is one of the things that we're doing. We're also having community outreach, hands-on and hearts-on, and giving. Instead of withholding, we're giving. How do we protect the earth? How do we educate our children? How do we help oppressed peoples? And last but not least, how do we bring spirituality, deep caring for each other through all these disciplines? Deep caring for each other. How do we bring our spirituality, our deep caring for each other through all of this? And what the Dalai Lama said, that all those questions fall under the last question. His own response was, my experience leads me to believe that love is increasing. He shared a practice with the group that will increase loving and compassion in the world. And he asked everyone attending to go home and share it with as many people as possible. So number one, the practices that he recommends are, number one, to spend 5 minutes at the beginning of each day remembering that we all want the same thing and that we're all connected. We're all connected with the lodestone of love. Number two is to spend 5 minutes cherishing yourself and others and to let go of judgments, to get beyond that casino of our minds. Number three is to breathe in cherishing yourself, so to breathe in cherishing ourselves and to breathe out cherishing others. And I invite us to just take that moment right now and to maybe do this 3 times for ourselves. To breathe in, cherishing ourselves, and breathe out, cherishing others. And it could be that there may be a face of people who we may be having difficulty. If those appear to us, that we cherish them as well. We cherish them. So we breathe in, cherishing ourselves. So let's do that for ourselves. We breathe in, cherishing ourselves. And then we breathe out, cherishing others. And again, we breathe in, cherishing ourselves. And breathe out, cherishing others. And one more time, just as relaxed in this practice as possible. We breathe in, cherishing ourselves. And breathe out, cherishing others. And so that's something that we can take with us today. And the fourth one was, during the day, extend an attitude to everyone we meet of that cherishing attitude. That we're all the same and that we cherish ourselves and that we cherish others, whether it's in the grocery store, whether it's our family, whether it's our co-workers. And number 5 is to stay in the practice no matter what. To stay in the practice. Have our mind stayed on that which is divine. Have the mind stayed on the divine. No matter what. And that then we engage our optimal health, we engage our optimal wealth, we engage our relationships in a new way. We engage that lodestone of love, we engage the inner peace that is within us, no matter what. And when I was in Vegas, I was reminded of my friends had owned a Lamborghini dealership in Vegas and also in Orange County. And I had gone to school of ministry way back when with, her name was Astrid, and her family, it was just very natural for them. And part of our vision is the love, abundance, and acceptance. So as an illustration of abundance, they just knew it was just natural of who they are and what they could give to other people. And they would have a race called the Running of the Bulls, which went up the coast of California. And when my mom had gone to the hospital and she was on her way to her next experience in life, in her eternal life, we had needed a place to store this Toyota Corolla, which she had driven for 1,000,000 years. If you can, Toyota Corolla. It was this candy apple red, just this little tiny old Toyota Corolla. And what my friend said was, well, you could store it at our place. And so they had a warehouse where they would just keep it washed and keep it all greased up, ready to go. Well, she was kind of in a holding pattern, and I don't know if the Toyota got a little complex hanging out with those Lamborghinis. But it really had a good experience. And so come to find out that they had established in Vegas, and I guess that's why I was just there, is that what reminded me of the story was that they explored their abundance, and they kicked it up a notch, moving it from Orange County to Vegas. They figure, I guess, the high rollers were already there. They could just drive home in their new vehicle. And what's so funny is her brother kept giving her these cars to drive that weren't the Lamborghinis, but it's like this Mercedes, first class kind of thing. And well, how come you're driving that? Well, because my brother wants me to. And then they had plumbing problems, and so they put her and her mom up at the Four Seasons. Well, how come you're there? Well, I don't know. It's because my brother wants me to. And it was just amazing to watch the unfoldment of how they dedicated a lot of their resources to some best interests of children. So it wasn't just self-serving, but it served the larger communities, not only in the one state, but the other state. And they did a lot of best interest work looking through the children's eyes and how they could provide them the best experience possible. So they were fairly altruistic and philanthropic. And there were actually three sons in this family. And they were raised really by an overly critical mom. Anyone have ever known anyone who had a overly critical parent, or maybe it was a neighbor or someone else that disapproving, a lot of disapproval. And don't look at anyone right now. It's okay not to. It's okay not to look at anyone right now. But they grew up with some disapproving and overly criticizing and complaining, and so when the three brothers went out on their own, they left home. And at the same time, they were still wanting to prove themselves to their mother on how well that they could do. And so they amounted a great amount of money. And so they were mostly just trying to prove their worth to their mom and to their family. And it did have good benefit because it was repurposed and refocused in a lot of ways. And when the brothers got back together for the mom's birthday, they were all bragging about the gifts that they had given the mom. And they just were still so seeking approval of her. And the one brother, it was Harold, Gerald, and Donald. The first son, Harold, says, for my mom's birthday this year, I got her the biggest house. Oh my gosh, I moved her in and she's there right now. Bragging to his other brothers. And the second brother, Gerald, says, well, I sent her a top-of-the-line Mercedes, and it has every feature you could imagine, and I got her a driver. Full-time driver. And then the third son, Donald, says, he smiled and he says, you both remember that Mom enjoys reading scripture and she loves world spirituality, and so I got her the most bestest gift in the whole wide world. She enjoys the Upanishads, she enjoys the Tao, the Talmud, the Aramaic translation of the Bible, Rumi, David Hawkins, all kinds of things, the Science of Mind textbook. And it took 12 years to teach this parrot all this scripture. He's got it nailed. This parrot, the most beautiful gift in the whole world, has got all of these verses. And all she has to do is say, read me some Upanishads, which is one of the oldest sacred texts. And, Mama just gives it a name and he'll just recite it. So this parrot will just, it's the most pleasurable thing that Donald could give to her. And soon thereafter, Harold, Gerald, and Donald received some thank you notes from Mama. And the first thank you note says, Dear Harold, the house you built for me is ridiculously large, and I live in only one room, and I have to clean the whole house. I'm exhausted. Thanks a lot. The second note says, remember she had an overly critical, disapproving family? Dear Gerald, she wrote in the second note, I am too old to travel. Remember the Mercedes? I spend most of my time cleaning the darn house, and I rarely use the Mercedes. Besides, the driver is so rude. Thanks for nothing. However, to the third note, where Donald had really sought out this most wonderful parrot, she says, My dearest Donald, you have the good sense to know what your mother likes. Thank you so much. That chicken is simply delicious. It's all our perspectives. I don't know if it resembles the three bears, but it's the breadcrumbs, those distractions, those whatever we bring with us, those distractions, and getting through that casino of our experience. And to be magnets like the lodestone for love, to be magnets for good, to be magnets for possibility, to be magnets for transformation, and to make the best choices of the highest vibration. And here we have shared values of high vibration. We have love. We have peace. We have joy. We have abundance. We have acceptance and gratitude. And much like the Dalai Lama, let's enjoy these practices of life where we cherish through our in-breath, we cherish ourselves, and then through our out-breath, we cherish others. We have that lodestone of acceptance of ourselves. And there's one more spiritual practice I want to convey, and it's from that movie and book, Eat, Pray, Love. Anyone ever saw that, read that? And Ketut, the medicine man in Bali, said to Liz, he said, "You're way too serious. Lighten up." He invited her to just lighten up in her spiritual practice. He said, "Here's your new spiritual practice, Liz." And it was also to be more inclusive. Her spiritual practice didn't exclude anyone else's practice on that travel. And that it did not exclude anyone from having their own experience of the divine. That, yes, it's all welcome. It's all welcome. And that the challenge to each is to look at the way our perspective is. To look at that lodestone and that which is navigating that compass that is within us. And to look for the good and to choose carefully. To continue to look for the good and to choose carefully and to take then positive action. What Katuk said to Liz is, "You're way too serious. Lighten up. Smile in your meditation. Smile with your face. Smile with your soul. And smile in your liver." All the way. So today we can smile and realize that it's the beginning of a new design for living, whether we're having an illness, whether we're having a disagreement, whether we're having the joys of relationship, whether we're having the love, or whether we're having fill in the blank. Whatever we're having, no matter what, we can know that love is the lodestone, and to know that we are loved and know that we are cherished. So I know that we are loved and that we are cherished, and to take that into our heart and let that be the guiding force. So I invite us to turn within and to have a moment of inner celebration. To turn within and quietly know, as the practitioners rise, that there is this practice of the spiritual nature, and knowing that there is the infinite presence. There is the wisdom, the creativity, and the knowingness, which is that love is already here. That love is the guiding force. It is the inspiration. It is that which is loving and kind, and it is the love and abundance and acceptance. And being in this vision and knowing that there is that which is spirit-centered, and being connected and knowing that there is this connection in this unified field of peace, knowing that peace emerges and love abounds and compassion expresses, and that there is the true understanding of that which is the divine essence which is within each and every one of us, and being called to be in this unique expression, and knowing that as we lean into this, leaning in as this understanding presence, and knowing that there is that which is the highest and best which is unfolding, there is this divine pattern which is unfolding with grace, with ease, with harmonizing good, and being in this harmony and being a place to resonate in this grace, allowing it to be in all of its fullness, in the fullness of blessings. And so be it, in gratitude, in love, in this lodestone of life. And so it is.
And so it is.